Okay, we're live.
Okay, I'll call the May 17th, 2021 meeting of the Fairport Industrial Development Agency to order. And Lily can see who's here for attendees, and we're joined by Ken Rohr by phone. I'll open a public comment period, and hearing it, no one is seeing no one, I'll close the public comments. Start with approval of the April 19th meeting minutes of the IDA. I have a motion. Anyone? So moved.
Second.
Comments, corrections, or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We can move right into financial reporting. And I'll ask for a motion for resolution 2021-05 authorizing payment of the IDA bills.
So I have reviewed the bills and I move to approve the payment.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any questions or discussion regarding any of those bills? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, so now we'll go into the cash and investments. Anything there that you want to call out to bring to our attention, Martha? It's pretty much we've been carrying the same contingencies. The CDs continue to.
Right, I continue to roll those. I'm trying to ladder them a little more. And the rates are what they are.
The investment report, the Tompkins investment report.
Right, we recently had a maturity of about 40,000, I believe it was, and that came out and got combined into a CD. We've got another our next maturity out of here is not until February of next year.
Anybody have any questions or discussion regarding the Tompkins report? Who's?
Do you need some water?
No, it's just a cough led to a sneeze. Oh. Okay, so then we have the P&L and the balance sheet for the IDA. And anything there that you want to call out, Martha? We've all had an opportunity to review it.
No, it's again, not much movement. You know, the big driver to the bottom line, of course, is the Southwest Bank project that is expensed.
And anyone have any questions or comments regarding that? All right, we'll move into old business and the RFP audit update.
Right, so I've given you a summary of the firms. We sent it out to 10 firms, primarily those that had already been engaged with other IDAs. The Flaherty Salmon declined, and today DeJoy also declined to submit a proposal. But we have received one from Insero, and they're due, I believe it's next Friday.
Yeah, I was a little concerned when I first saw that and saw that we only had one come in,
Right.
and I appreciated it just went out. So
Right, we had questions first were due, and then we had to send those back out. We only got questions from EFPR, and those have been posted and distributed to everybody. So I imagine we'll get a few more. And we'll see this again in each of the other board packages, but we don't need to.
any discussion regarding that? All right, so under old business, the Thomas Creek Wetlands Boardwalk, we're revisiting that proposal from last September.
Right, and I think I just wanted to bring it back here and get a temperature check on whether or not we want to do a CFA application to potentially drum up some funding for this project. You know, that the DPW's made the repairs to, you know, keep it cobbled together. It's not horrible. It's very unattractive, but it's not unsafe yet. So it's a question to the board is if the timeline works for you, would we want to engage Labella to do a CFA application for this to get us possibly, you know, $50,000 for it? Timeline seems to work out for us.
Would we be competing against ourselves for any CFA grants if we submitted this one?
It would likely, the funding would come from Canal Corp, and the Canal Corp wouldn't be involved in an alternate CFA application.
What window of time, if we receive the funds, what would be the window of time we would have to use them within?
I believe it's a year or so, but with our other one, the butterfly garden, that went on and on and on, it's extended. So the question, I guess, would be, do we want to make an application? Do we want to undertake the, you know, engage Labella to write the CFA application for this? Does it fit? Or, because I don't, I think from our planning discussion, we were waiting for lumber to come down.
It wasn't real high on our priority.
No, I don't think it was. So we could look at it again next year.
But it's also, we don't want to pass, I mean, that should be part of our mission is to grab any kind of funding sources that might become available to us.
Mhm.
So for what it may cost to do the application.
Right.
And this thing is ready to go, basically, right? I mean,
Right.
we have the plan.
Mm-hmm.
So how much does what's her name's Labella charge for putting this application together?
I did not get a quote on this one, but I would say it's probably going to be in that $3,500, $4,000 range. It's going to be less complex than the Bicentennial Canal Gateway, certainly.
We receive, you know, we know what the lumber prices were. Because I'm worried about the fluctuation of the costs.
Yeah, I just hear huge numbers of increases.
Yeah.
And I've heard so many different ones, I don't really know what it is, but I know it's a whole lot.
I think if you go to page 15, aren't those the lumber prices right there, the unit cost? Right?
And I think Rob's asking what the escalator would be on, you know, how much higher than when this proposal was put together.
But the expectation would be, what is it next year? Right?
Well, my hope is that it'll correct. I just don't have any kind of context for when. Even a conversation with a local developer, he said there's no signs telling when it will happen. Because I'm getting quotes for something on my property right now that involves lumber. It's shocking to the system. So that's all. And that was what sort of prefaced the question about timing. How long could we hold these funds until it made more sense to actually spend them if we received.
Right. Okay. And actually, we expend, it's a reimbursement, so we spend the money and then it comes back.
And you're saying, Martha, with the experience with the butterfly garden, even if we don't spend them within 12 months, we're not.
They want to see progress on the project. If the project is underway, you know, that's fine with them.
But this one is good because it is already designed.
Mm-hmm.
So,
It's ready to go. Yeah.
thoughts, Leslie?
Well, if we seek out the grant and we don't, you know, it doesn't come through till September-ish,
Or no, December is when they award it.
so that would give us all of 2022 potentially do it without an extension, or at least start the project, but we have left bid, I guess, for somebody.
We wouldn't be able to do that work until the awards are announced in December. In January, February, you sign a contract with the state, and then you can begin letting the bid, or awarding the bid and so forth.
And I guess in doing business with the state in the past, I would think that, let's say that they didn't stabilize, that the numbers either increase or just kind of capped, and that's what they're going to be. I would think that we would have the opportunity in our contract to be able to reduce the scope of the project and say, okay, we're not going to do 100% of it, but we can do 50% of it for the same amount of money and still use that grant money. I think that would be an option.
They were very flexible on the butterfly garden. There was, what it looks like going in is entirely different on the way out, and it's fine.
So by getting this, we wouldn't be committed to whatever the highest price is, we'd be committed to our budget.
Yes.
Like I said, we're going to spend,
Yeah.
getting less words, but still, it allows us to do something.
And we don't run the risk of wasting. I'm comfortable with that idea.
More something for that,
Yeah, like.
Okay. Okay. So it's a yes to go ahead and,
yes.
great.
Do we need a motion for that?
Is it in the budget?
No,
Then I would.
Yeah.
Okay, how about a motion to engage Labella?
thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, good. So we got that one.
The rest of the agenda is just FYI stuff.
Okay, so you can fill us in on the butterfly there?
Yes, yes.
Economic development.
Right, had a meeting out there with Paul Sorbello, and John Reddington and Tracy McIntyre. Tracy's the woman that's been doing the maintenance out there, and there's been a real big issue with this one weed. They're not even sure what it is, or whatever, but it requires an immense amount of effort to get it out. So I've included some pictures here. She'd already spent, I think we spent she'd already spent 11 hours on just this garden bed, which was not the intent when we started this. So the conclusion among the professionals was that it needed to be round up. And then we'll proceed from there. So Paul Sorbello, a licensed applicator. We checked with DPW. They're going to, then the licensed applicator is responsible for all the required notifications and so forth. So, we talked about just, removing the bed, et cetera, but we're trying to do it, trying to save what we've got there within a reasonable amount of expenditure. So, but otherwise, she's also started work on the North Main parking lot as well to get that in shape. So she's very diligent, very hardworking woman. So, so that's that. So there'll be a little bit more expense, but it should be gone eventually.
Just looking at ways to save a little money. I think we could get DPW to do that because
To round up,
I think they are
It's already-
licensed applicators.
it's already been applied.
Okay.
Yep.
And she gave you a discount for something. I didn't quite understand.
Right.
Yeah. So.
She loves gardens, and she's hell-bent on getting this stuff out. So she's, she wants to keep adding flowers, and I keep saying, let's get what we got going first before we keep going. So, it's looking better. But just wanted to bring you up to date on that. So, and the final piece in the IDA, we did finally receive the final economic development study prepared by SWBR and Urban Advisors et al. And now we'll be able to begin. You've seen most of it before, and that there was just some wordsmithing primarily that was at the end. And we'll now be able to move on to the RFP for the economic development plan. And I think I committed myself to getting that out by June 30. Okay.
Yeah, that I kind of reread the thing and just the key points of it as opposed to charts and graphs.
Mm-hmm.
That pretty much is what we have seen.
Mhm.
I think there was a closing thing. I don't remember the final piece of that was SWBR, their piece. I don't remember seeing that.
That
Could have been.
yeah. it was important to me to get them to wordsmith a few things because yes,
All right,
it was worthwhile effort to do that. So that's that.
all right. Any other old business for IDA?
I do not have any.
Questions where we are with anything? And how about new business? None on the agenda.
I'm still working, we have approved sharp notions for the 75 North Main, and we're still working, that's there. The landlord and the tenant are in negotiations. But we're gonna keep them in Fairport. We've got that commitment, so.
How did that, if you can speak to it, how did the walkthrough go that Monday?
The walkthrough was a viable option if that other landlord can come up with a parking plan, et cetera, et cetera. So they've had their architect go back and look at that other space as well. And they liked it, but there's a parking issue that has to be resolved first. And I talked with the tenant Friday and the property owner today, and they're still talking on that second parcel, but I also talked with the other landlord Friday as well, and he's also moving forward. So
one way or another.
we're going to keep them in Fairport.
Good. Nice work. Good job. Anybody else have anything else for IDA on the talk about? Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.